Is the world's largest economy, the US, going to fall under its own debt? The signs are manifesting the fact. The officials within the Biden administration have publicly raised alarms about Washington's weakening fiscal health. The unthrifty use of dollars into the Ukraine war and even domestically rather generously are now coming back to hurt back President Joe Biden. What have these expenses done? It not just has increased the government's borrowing sharply but also put the U.S. Treasury under severe strain, so much so that the government is now dangerously close to its legal borrowing limit. What are the causes that bring the U.S. at the brink of debt crisis? What's going on among U.S. lawmakers about the debt crisis? Let's find out. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned by saying that the nation will hit its $31.4 trillion borrowing limit next week and could run the risk of debt default starting early June. She further said that her department will be forced to start taking certain measures to prevent the U.S. from defaulting on its obligations. In a letter to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said, President and Treasury secretaries of both parties have made clear that the government must default on any obligation of the U.S. It has been predicted that emergency measures can last only till June. So effectively, U.S. lawmakers have around 5 months to decide whether to suspend or raise the debt limit. Till then, the two measures that the Treasury has in mind to reduce debt are redeeming existing and suspending new investments in the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund. It is also likely to suspend the reinvestment in the Government Secretary's Investment Fund of Federal Employees Retirement System Thrift Savings Plan. Do you know what the debt limit of a country is and what's happening with the U.S. debt limit? In simple terms, it is the amount of money that a government can legally borrow to meet its financial obligations such as Social Security and military salaries and Medicare benefit payments. Congress last month had fixed this limit at $31.4 trillion, and reportedly the nation's current national debt itself stands at $31 trillion. Just to be clear, if Washington defaults on its debt payments, it will hardly be in a position to pay its bills, including salaries or even sustaining subsidy schemes. The situation gave a ground to political parties to get their benefit out of it. The Treasury on its part is very clear. The U.S. Congress has to quickly hammer out an agreement on this issue, and that will be a tough task for the Biden administration as it becomes a battle between Democrats and Republicans. The Republicans have the majority in the House of Representatives while the Democrats are ahead in the Senate. Democrats must make big cuts in spending. As Representative Steve Scalise explained that, when you're dealing with the debt limit, you are also putting mechanisms in place so that you don't keep maxing out, because if the limit gets raised, you don't go to the store the next day and just max it out again like with a credit card. The Biden administration and Democrats have made it very clear that they don't intend to agree to any budget cuts as part of the negotiations on the debt ceiling. They believe the limit should be raised amicably, since it merely allows the U.S. to honor previous borrowing commitments often passed by both parties. Indeed, this political deadlock is the throwback for President Joe Biden. In 2011, the then Obama administration was in a similar position. Republicans then maintained the same demands of cutting spending in exchange for a better ceiling increase. In the end, a deal was reached that was partly broken by Joe Biden, who was then the vice president. Research for Moody's Analytics warned in a September 2021 report that the default on Treasury bonds could throw the U.S. economy into a tailspin as bad as the Great Recession. Moreover, it also projected a 4% decline in America's GDP and the loss of nearly 6 billion jobs. If it defaulted, it would have huge repercussions around the world. One of the most affected parts would be Ukraine. Do you wonder why? One of the biggest spending by Joe Biden has been $100 billion in aid to Ukraine. The administration has bought money and weapons worth billions into Kiev and has vowed to do so going ahead. But that comes at a cost. Washington hasn't caught up with Ukraine's rapid demand for weapons, causing a massive decline in America's own inventory. As a result, the U.S. Navy has also signaled that it may have to ultimately decide between arming itself or the Ukrainians. Joe Biden faces a similar predicament on the economic front. He has to choose between spending billions of dollars elsewhere with minimal accountability or saving his own nation. What President Joe Biden should do now? What are your thoughts on the matter? Do let us know in the comments. For more updates, news and insightful analysis, subscribe to our channel.